Hello. On today's video, or this video, I'm going to be working on a piece I've been a little bit hesitant to work on. This. So I originally purchased this at, I actually don't remember what store it was at, but I got this quite some time ago. And the reason I got it was because of her facial structure. I got it with the intention to do a mold of her and then turn her into something else. However, that process is quite time consuming, and I don't know that I actually even want to go that route and have a mold laying around of her. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to make changes to this piece itself. Now, I'm probably skipping quite a few steps here. The reason being that typically I'd probably need to sculpt this and then I'd have something to work with. Now I already have the piece made, and so maybe I'm technically cheating in a way. However, it's still going to require some modification to her face. One thing, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit closer here in just a second, but her eyes are shut, and I don't necessarily want her eyes like that. Also, this piece is just, the headpiece is just kind of something that's not going to work out for what I want to do. So I will be making a modification to this, pretty much cutting it off. So though they're though the hardest part, which would be like shaping the face and everything, is already done for me, it's not 100% there.
I've got this type of hair here, and so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be dreadlocking it so that I can apply it on the head of the statue here, or I guess sculpture. I'm going to need my crochet hooks that I use in my own hair to keep my dreads clean. By clean, I mean locked up, not frizzy, or I guess not having a bunch of dreadlocks all messy. These lock them up. Originally, what I was going to do is I was going to take my crochet hook and kind of just crochet them like so, similar to how I would do my hair. However, this hair is really loose, and so it was taking quite some time to kind of get it to lock up, as you can kind of see here. It just takes a while. So instead, what I decided to do is I decided to do something that I wish I could do to my hair, which is I got this type of lock. And to get it like this, this is synthetic hair. You can only do this with synthetic hair. You can't do it with real hair. So I twisted this like this. Let me see if I can twist them real fast. And so it was a much longer piece because I'm holding them against the table over here. But so let's say I have them held like this. I'm taking my heat gun and I'm applying heat to it. Obviously, I'm trying to make sure I'm not going to burn my fingers, but then while it's warm, I hold it like this. And depending on how much I pull on them, that's how tight they end up staying. So once the heat, once they cool back down, they maintain their shape. And so I got them to be different, and all of them are not kind of necessarily all the same. They're kind of different thicknesses based on that process. Now, I don't think the heat gun is necessary. I think you can get away with just like maybe a blow dryer, but I just want to make sure I'm kind of going quickly with this. before I start doing anything that's a little more complex, what I'm doing right now is I want her eyes to be open, and right now the eyelid is shut. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sand off where the eyelid would be and then see if I can't recreate it on the top. But first, I need to remove it. All right, so the eyes are done. Sand it down. And now I'm going to move over to the headpiece up here. One thing, I don't know if I've said this in my past videos, but I used to work with composites before the pandemic. I used to build fiberglass and carbon fiber parts for race cars, and so I'm kind of a nerd about this type of composite material. I've sanded this one down, and I don't know what this is or what was used to create this, but I really wish I would have known. Like, it's not porous, it sands down easily. This material would have been great to experiment with back in my composite days. I've already kind of began, but this is the portion that I'll be cutting off. I'm just going super careful and slow on this, just because I don't want to mess this up. I'm hoping that under here it's not hollow. I'm hoping that this is all this composite material, so that will definitely help everything out. But if it is hollow, then I'll have to fill it in with something that I may have. Okay, so unfortunately it is hollow. Being composite, it probably would have been fairly much heavier if it was not hollow. So that smell, I know you guys can't smell it, but it brings back so many like great memories. I really miss working with composite and doing composite work. Anyhow, I do have some leftover just like I guess material for my personal use, and so that's what I'll be using to fill this hole up with. I've gone ahead and cut this little pieces top of a bottle, and that's what I'm going to use to place here. And it's just going to be there so that it covers up this hole, so I don't have to use so much material when I'm trying to fill this up. And then I'm just going to hot glue it in place. One thing I just forgot though is that I want to kind of close this up, so I'm going to just use a little bit of painter's tape and just stick it up there. Once the composite material that I'm going to use hardens around here, it's not going to matter what happens with this. It's just going to be in there, and it's going to stay in there forever. Okay, so I've decided to use this body filler. I was going to use some polyurethane, but some polyurethane composite that I have, but I'd rather just go with this. It'll cure faster, and it should be a little bit more simplistic to use on that piece. Now, my hardener, there were some issues with this, and so kind of I'm definitely not going to require that much. It's just seems like this just hasn't been used for a long time, and so it kind of blew up on me, basically. Let's say this cures kind of quick, so you kind of have to work fast. All right, so it's dry and I've covered it up all like this. I'm going to take a file to it real quick to get all the rough edges down real fast, and then afterwards I'll go down, I'll go on it with with sandpaper, fairly thick grit, and I'm a little unsure as to how much of it will have to be removed from this part right up here. I think I kind of might have packed too much. I don't know. If it starts showing the plastic underneath, then I'll just go a little bit deeper and then reapply more of this body filler. Using this super aggressive file, it's making a quick work of shaping the back of the head. All right, now I'm taking really I think this is like 60 grit, and that's what I'm using to kind of smooth out the rest that I don't want to take the file with or do the file on it, because the file might take too much. All right, so I've got it to where I feel is pretty good. There are a couple of little areas where it's still a little bit deeper. However, those are going to work in my benefit for the next thing that I'm going to do to it. Something that I need to do is I want to recreate like the hair that's on here, like up here. So I'm going to quickly draw it out and try to make it as close to this as possible. That way, whatever the hair that I put on here doesn't cover, it'll still, you know, look like hair. I don't know how well this shows it, but I guess it shows it okay. They're just basically zigzags. So I'm going to start from the center here, and then I will just be going with this marker and making something kind of like that. So lines like that is what I'm going to try to carve out in the similar width as these. All right, so it's all drawn up. Some of these areas are a little bit messed up, but I'll do my best to just kind of keep the lines kind of similar to the bottom here. And then whatever doesn't work out, I'm not really the most concerned, because again, it'll be covered by hair, or at least that's the idea. I'm using this tool here with this type of bit, and the game, you know, I guess the end result here is just to kind of dig a little trench everywhere that I've marked with the marker, kind of like so. I don't know how well you can see that there. So it's not going too deep. I did want to use a different tool because this tool is actually really aggressive. Even at its lowest setting, I have it set to 1. But this bit doesn't fit on my other tool. That's like, it's just like some cheap rotary tool. So this one's just, I'm trying to go as light as possible, because this one can dig in here real quick and make a real mess. So, but let me kind of show what I'm doing. So basically just like that. All right, so they are all done, or I guess I'm all done. I need to rinse her off, and then I'm going to figure out how to reconstruct her top eyelids. I'm not going to be using this material. It's actually really hard, and by her eyes, I don't really have too much area to work with to get like fine sandpaper in there and stuff like that. And so I don't want to take the risk of, you know, tearing up her face or something like that with any tool or you know, whatever I may need in order to shape her top eyelids. I'm going to try to make them out of glazing spot putty. This is typically used to fill in pinholes on bodywork for cars. And so, however, I kind of am thinking, and usually it's just, again, it's made to fill in pinholes, not necessarily to build up. And so I don't know how well it's going to work on this, but it's the only thing I can think of that I have that might not cause some sort of chemical reaction. I have a couple of other things, but I'm a little concerned that they might like cause whatever this is to bubble up. Just because I've never tried it before, and I don't have anything to test this on because I don't know what this material is, like what type of composite material this is. So I know I've never really had issues with body filler, but again, it would be really hard to apply it in here, and not necessarily only to apply it, but to sand it down and get anything, because the area is super small. So trying to get like sandpaper in here is kind of difficult. As I tried to even do this was I don't know that I got this all the way down and all the way flush. So I don't really want to deal with that up here. So instead, I'm going to try this. I'm going to pour it into this bag here and then cut a tiny hole and see if I can just like squeeze it through here in a way that it will not be a big glob. Well, I might have to go back to the drawing board. Unless I have another one of these somewhere else, I can't use this one. It seems like it cured inside the tube. All right, I went and got a new tube. However, I just need to poke a hole in there, and there's absolutely no way that I can do it like this. I was kind of hoping I could. So I'm going to have to rely on this bag, fill it up, cut the tip, and hopefully that'll work. I'm unsure if this is going to work, but I've seen people build cakes like this, so we're going to try to do it this way. If I can get a hole poked in there. I thought I was recording, but I guess I wasn't, and I did one of them already. It seems to be working out. Luckily, I did not do both of them before I checked my camera, so let's try to see if I can't do this other one on while it is recording this time. I'm thinking that's pretty close, so I'm going to just go with that, wait for this to dry, and then I will be sanding it down. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart as I sand it. I'm going to be super gentle. Okay, so right now I've gotten this eyelid done. So I'm just taking my time really and being super careful with just some sandpaper. And I'm just going back and forth, trying to just kind of put the sandpaper on a point so that I don't get anything else, but also I'm not pressing very hard. I'm just letting the sandpaper do the work, because this material is very easily, it sands really easy. I have to determine, I want to put some dimples in along her head so that the hair can sit in there. I will be cutting the dreads in half, and one thing I was noticing is I only made 7 of these, so equaling a total of 14. And I feel like I keep estimating, I think 14 just on one side of the head. So, which doesn't make sense. Like I can't, oh, never mind. My dreads are actually significantly larger than these. All right, so I've done half of it already, and I count 13 on one side, so it's going to require a few more dreads than what I've made. But now I'm just moving on to this side. And for this, I'm just using this really large drill bit. It's actually supposed to be for a drill press, but it's working just fine. I've got this makeshift paint booth type setup here. Well, not really like a paint booth, but just a painting area, so that I can spray it. It's time to kind of get it all to be one color. I'm using primer, and it's just black primer. That's what I will apply first, and then depending on what it looks like, I will later go through it with a different color. I'm trying to shoot kind of far from it so I don't have the paint run. Okay, let's let that dry. All right, so she's all dry, and this is a new day. Just it's kind of weird seeing my hand without nail polish. So decide while I was waiting for it to dry, might as well, be proactive. Anyhow, I believe that I kind of want to move on to, this is really bad lighting. I want to move on to painting her. I think the hair is going to be the last thing that I'm going to do. When I was rubbing on like the body and the neck and everything like that, it started to get kind of glossy. So I decided to just go ahead and spray it with actual paint. and basically just the same brand as the primer and everything like that, but it was just black satin paint instead of the primer. And this is kind of what it's looking like now, which I feel a little more comfortable with it. Again, I don't know if maybe the primer had just not sat fine, um, or maybe it was just a residue from it that was still coming off. But this is not rubbing off at all. You can kind of see here, those were some marks that was left on the piece of paper from the primer. So I decided to go this route, and I'm okay with it now. I'm starting off with solid white, and it's nothing fancy, just acrylic paint. I'm unsure why I said, you know, apply. I'm going to start off with white, like if I'm going to be applying various colors. I'm not. It's just going to be black and white. So now that the eyes are done, it's time to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of the face, and then I'm unsure as to maybe even the jewelry. So I thought I was going to make this into kind of like a sugar skull type sculpture. However, now that I've kind of just kept glancing at her, and I was somewhat hesitant of even applying the eyes and the paint on the eyes and making them all white. But I think what I'm going to do is I still may draw on the neck and on the chest, but I don't think I'm going to apply any further paint. I think what I'm going to just do now is I will be applying the hair, and then I'm going to see what it looks like with the hair, and then I'll determine if I need to go further on it. I can always come back and turn it into a sugar skull type a sculpture. However, I really like this like almost fortune teller um, witch type look that it's got going on now. I'm cutting them about right here. That should be long enough for something else. So we'll set that aside. And then these are what we will be gluing. They're not even because again, as I, dreaded them or made them like this, some areas got longer because some were not as tightened. And so that's totally fine. That actually will make it look a little more realistic. Okay, so let me see if I can show what I'm doing here. So on the ends that I've cut off of the dreads, I'm kind of getting them fuzzed up. So kind of like that. And then I'm filling up the little trenches, or I guess little crevices, with hot glue and pressing these in so that the center is what sticks inside and keeps it from undreading, but also it gives that perception of it being like an actual scalp. So I've got some hot glue in this one here, for example. Let me see if I can kind of show it and make sure that I don't get other hair in there. So there's the little bit of glue, and let me see if I can press that in. And so just like that. All right, so I've got all her hair put on, and I decided I am going to draw on her neck real fast, and then I will determine whether I want to draw on her chest. But I'm going to do that really quickly before my paint starts to dry. I'm thinking that is as close to being straight as possible. Her face is slightly turned this way. So hopefully that's not crooked. You know the term less is more. I think I probably say that more than I should on this channel, but I think I'm going to just call it good here. If I see and continue to see this piece and I feel like it needs something else, then I'll add something more.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.